I got to really get a feel for what it was to grow up in the neighborhood and some of the resources that they still lacked. And those were the major issues I tried to resolve.
Cattle Call Podcast. Got a great new guest. Say that every time, but I do truly mean it. And I think with the exception of my dad on one episode, this is the guest I've known the longest.
What's up?
Dakota, how you doing?
Doing well.
We have Dakota Wyatt. Dakota, is it James?
Yeah.
Dakota James Wyatt?
Yep.
D-Dub Wyatt?
How's it going?
Oh, there it is. What does the O stand for? Dakota, how you doing?
Doing great, actually.
Great. And Dakota, who is Dakota?
Philosophical question.
That is, dude. That gives something to chew on.
Well, the way you and I know each other, for the audience, is from high school. We both live in Spring Hill. Our families live here. That's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. In your backyard in Spring Hill, Tennessee.
And we got to know each other in, what was it, engineering class, 9th grade.
Yep.
And then I got rezoned for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And then we saw each other freshman year, first day in architecture school at Memphis.
True.
Got real tight.
True.
Became roommates for a while.
True.
So I continued the architecture school.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac is here doing professional journalism.
Yeah. Right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just graduated.
Yep.
So you just graduated from the University of Memphis with a Master's of Architecture?
That's correct.
Man, so you might be the smartest guy I've had on paper.
Maybe the most educated.
Art is so subjective. That is hard to measure.
Yeah, BFA.
Yeah, BFA.
And then MArch.
BFA in Architecture and Interior Design?
Yep. Dual
and
major.
Oh, dude, we love that. And then you're
double major.
Double major, baby. Throwback Thursday. Double major podcast inspired by Dakota Wyatt, a double major.
Yep, there it is.
There it is. And then now a Master of Architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Man. So
not using it yet, though.
Not you. You also did graduate in the middle of what we would call a pandemic.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of hiring going on during a pandemic, huh?
Anti-hiring.
Yeah. A lot of anti-hiring. In fact, if you're already hired, you probably would have been let go first anyway, huh?
Yeah. If it was recent. Yeah, I had a job lined up. This firm, Dryden Architecture and Design in Nashville. Had an internship there for a couple of years, and it was great. Super successful for me, and I believe for them too. Soaked up a lot of knowledge and experience. Learned a lot there. A lot more like my first summer there than probably like the first year and a half of architecture school.
Oh, wow.
Internships in architecture are just so invaluable. But yeah, I had a job lined up there. I even met with like the CFO. It was a COO there at the time.
Uh-huh.
And we both agreed, like, we were on the same page. Like, he wanted to hire me and I wanted to work there, and they were going to put the offer together for me. And then this was like right at the start of like coronavirus stuff becoming like more prominent and well known.
Right.
This was probably March.
Uh-huh.
And then he left the firm for some reason or another. I never found out why. And another person came in contact with me who I didn't know, who was a new office manager there, saying that they weren't really looking to hire anymore because of coronavirus and uncertainty.
Nice.
And also because I already had that job lined up and I hadn't had to work on my portfolio in forever, I didn't have a portfolio to send them either. So, and because of how crazy it was finishing up my architecture thesis, for the longest time, I didn't even get to really work on it. So,
yeah.
I'm not doing architecture right now. I have another job, but
Do you want to talk about that job or no?
sure. Briefly, I basically work for this company here that's got a store in Franklin called Head Springs Depot. It's a furniture company, and I'm working in their custom finish shop, finishing up, doing custom finishes on furniture. It's really hands-on
Yeah,
and satisfying.
That's pretty cool
For me.
Yeah, that's cool. And how'd you come across that job?
So the neighbor to my right here,
Uh-huh.
he got the job there. He's an artist, and he had a lot of experience working for a flooring company. And then he changed jobs and got a job here at Head Springs Depot in their custom shop. And basically, they've gotten so busy with coronavirus.
Oh, I bet.
From people staying at home, doing home improvement, buying furniture, that he's working like 60 hours a week. And he knew that I'm decent hands-on, have attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I have like an eye for things as far as design goes. So he asked me to come and help him. And at first it was like 20 hours a week, but this week I did like 50 hours.
Oh, there we go.
So
then next week you could listen to your own podcast while you work.
I will, yeah.
Yeah. Like, wow, that was a really good podcast. There we go.
I probably won't actually listen to it.
Hey, that's all right, dude. That's what everyone says. Well, okay, so you go to architecture school. You're in grad school. You're doing a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
Explain what a thesis is to those listening that may not know what a thesis is.
So be kind to your architecture friends.
Yeah.
To your architecture master friends, or even undergrad friends. It is crazy how much work they give us to do. But so I did 6 years at Memphis, and the first 4, I'll say, so first day of architecture school, you and I were there.
Yeah.
And there were
70 others.
There were about 70 of us, right? Do you remember what they said?
This is the hardest major on this campus.
Yeah.
And any other college campus.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yes.
But for sure at that campus.
Mm-hmm. And 4 years later, whenever I graduated, there were 12 of us. And half of them were from the year above us who had to wait an additional year just to be able to finish certain classes they didn't quite pass the first time, or they decided to do a year of gen eds in between. And so there was 12 of us, and then I decided to stay, do my master's. And the reason I decided to do my master's is because I would like to get licensed one day.
Yeah.
And be able to have a license that has reciprocity in other states as well.
Yeah.
And even my decision to go to Memphis was partly because of this too, but basically the BFA is not a professional architecture degree, but the Master's of Architecture is.
Mm-hmm.
A Bachelor's of Architecture is as well, but that's a 5-year degree at UT, which is a lot more expensive than a BFA at Memphis.
Right.
So for 1 extra year, it costs a lot less, and I end up with a master's instead of a bachelor's in architecture. That was my reasoning there.
Gotcha. Okay.
In orientation freshman year, I got persuaded to do the dual major to get the interior design degree as well, which ended up being called interior architecture. I guess it's a way to differentiate like interior decorators from interior designers.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did that. But anyways, the thesis project, so that took up the last year and a half, basically, because the first...
All grad school.
Basically all grad school. The first year of grad school was a lot of theory type stuff. The ideas of architecture and reasoning behind major decisions, or reasoning behind design philosophies.
Okay.
Things that designers believe that spaces are or can be, and the reasoning behind different decisions they make.
Okay.
And then when learning all that, we're also doing lots of personal research on different ideas that we're interested in. And then we're encouraged to take that into creating our own design philosophy, or design manifesto, they called it. So after my first year, I had a design manifesto of like what I believed architecture should be or can be for me. And Then after that, the next semester was lots of major design work on a project we got to create ourselves, which became our thesis project. And we get up to about 90% of the design process done that third semester of grad school. And then we do a 90% critique at the end of that, get lots of feedback. And along the way, we're getting lots of feedback, doing different critiques along the way, like 30%, 60%, and 90%.
Wow.
And then winter break is a lot of work at home on it, finishing stuff up. But honestly, like for most of us, they've been changing the organization of the program every year, and the way they teach the thesis project. And we all felt like we were maybe like 50% done at the end of the 90%.
Oh, wow.
But so there's lots of work to be done. And then in February of this year, we did our thesis defense. So as far as the architecture project goes, we get to choose, we get to basically create our own project in a location near Memphis or in Memphis for a certain client that we get to make up, or a client that can be real if we meet people that we want to design a project for. And for me, it was a community. It was the community of Binghamton in Memphis. It's in the center of Memphis, and it's a neighborhood that I was really familiar with from previous architecture projects. And excuse me. So yeah, that project, that thesis project, after the defense, we get basically a confirmation or not, whether we passed, and whether we passed with minor or major revisions. I passed with minor revisions. Basically, that's what everybody passes with. And it'll be things like fixing the way some of the renderings look, fixing the way we describe some of the design.
Uh-huh.
It might be a few design things as far as like changing certain finishes for different reasons, or maybe we didn't explain something right, so it's just like explaining it better in the thesis book. So after the thesis defense in February, for the next like 2 months, we work on this book that compiles all of the work together.
Oh, man.
But it's all narrated out, not just in the way that we spoke about it at the thesis defense, but it's all written out in the way that designers kind of talk, but also in response to maybe our client that we got to meet with, and answering like all their questions, and also reflecting on the project a lot too. And then throughout all of that is lots of research and annotations, like annotated bibliographies in the end of the book that are referenced throughout the book itself. So yeah, it's a ton of work.
Right.
I was working on it like 80 hours a week probably.
Oh, man. Okay, and what exactly was your thesis?
So in Binghamton, it's a neighborhood that has historically kind of dealt with higher poverty rates, higher crime rates, less opportunity as far as jobs go, or even resources go, or even public transport goes. But I became familiar with this because we've done a projects in undergrad that were in that neighborhood or really close to it, included like the rec room, which you were a part of.
Sure. Good times.
Yeah. So the rec room, and also the Carpenter Art Garden, which for 2 different summers I did a design build studio where we designed and then built physically in the summers these different outdoor spaces for this. What would it be called? It's like a after school program for kids in the neighborhood. And so I got to know people that lived there and that organization well, the Carpenter Art Garden. And then we also like visited Caritas Village a couple times for a couple of various things, not really design related. And also
what was Caritas Village?
That's
to
like
people that don't know it.
Yeah, that's like a restaurant. They use like vegetables and produce and everything from Carpenter Art Garden, and it's in the neighborhood of Binghamton. It's super local. It's a cool space.
Yeah.
But we were in there one year to kind of study up like the community that they've created there. It's kind of tight knit but also inclusive, which is kind of cool. But anyways, Binghamton I was drawn to just because of my familiarity to it, and also the opportunity I saw there, because they were on a major upswing with momentum of improvement in the neighborhood as far as like, what's up? Oh, sure. Yeah.
There. You can keep talking.
Yeah, if we have a fire going, he's going to add some logs. So if you're familiar with Binghamton, one of the major intersections there is, trying to remember the name, that main highway that goes there, Sam Cooper and Tillman. It's a big intersection, and they just added some retail there. So, and what they added specifically, the Binghamton Development Corporation added a grocery store, which was needed, a cell phone store, which was needed, a dollar store just for general stuff that the actual community requested that they needed in the neighborhood. They added. So I thought speaking to them was important, and trying to continue that momentum that they created there was important. So throughout my thesis project, I decided I was going to meet with people in the community and try and figure out their needs. And a couple of the major groups of people that I spoke with, and this is interesting to talk about now, includes that Carpenter Art Garden organization with the kids, and then as well as the police precinct that's there on Tillman. And one thing I discovered from both parties is that they felt like a better connection or better communication between the police and the community was really important. So that helped me pick my site in my project. It's a site directly south of the police station. There's a large vacant site right now, and I basically developed this really big park-like community center for anybody and everybody to rent different spaces or just use different spaces freely. People could gather for church services or basketball or fishing or walking or music festivals or VBS or arts festivals or food festivals, food markets of any kind. And being basically on the site of the police station or right next to it, they would share that parking lot as well. And they would all just be using the same resources, and it would be an opportunity for conversation between like human to human, police and neighborhood. And then the building itself is really complicated, but it was received really well in my architecture department, and I got some nice praise for that, and I felt rewarded from that. It felt nice.
Yeah. And what kind of research did you have to do with like the community and the police department to kind of give you a basis for how you could design to, have that human-human interaction? What kind of conversations did you have?
Yeah, so in the community, specifically, I interviewed some people at Carpenter Art Garden as well as a policeman there, and they spoke about some of their needs that they still need, spoke about some experience they had growing up in the neighborhood. I got to really get a feel for what it was to grow up in that neighborhood and some of the resources that they still lacked. And those were the major issues I tried to resolve in my project.
Gotcha. Did you have any great conversations that still stand out now?
Just because of things that are going on in our world in the U.S. right now, something that stuck out to me that I wish I was more vocal about was the desire for a better relationship between the police and the neighborhood. Like a desire for there not to be a fear of policemen in their neighborhood. And because the people I spoke with believed that there wasn't really an issue there. They believed that there wasn't really something to be scared of, but more that the police could be a great resource and aid and help to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But with people's fear of the police or disapproval of the police, it was only hindering the neighborhood. So that was one of the leading factors of my design. But now that police brutality is and like Black Lives Matter and these riots that are going on for various um, events that are happening in the United States right now, I do wonder if they still believe what they said.
Yeah. Yeah, narrative definitely could have changed. I remember when you told me about it, gosh, it had to be, I don't know, June or July or something like that, when we were both back here in a COVID world, and you explained what your thesis was. And it's like, dude, you could use that about right now. You may have to redo your research. Narratives could have changed, but
Yeah.
definitely seems like from what you've told me about it prior to this podcast, maybe you might have had the solution to some of the stuff going on if that would be modeled elsewhere.
Yeah. In my research, I found a couple of example projects in places where they've already done similar things that were really successful, brought down crime rates and
Yeah.
made a more positive neighborhood, like a happier neighborhood. And that's basically what gave me the proof that it would work for me to go forward with the design.
Yeah.
And Binghamton had the need for it, so that's why I designed that. And I'd be interested to see the reaction to it today, see if it would be well received or see if it would be rejected now.
Yeah. Man. So how did you get into architecture to begin with? What drew you in?
So we did engineering 9th grade, and then whenever I got rezoned, I stayed in the engineering program, but I had to restart the STEM system because of a different program.
Gotcha.
Anyways, the last class I did was architecture based, and I enjoyed it. And then also I got to tour an architecture firm randomly with my dad.
Where at?
In Ohio, I was visiting family, and he just knew somebody that worked at a firm called NBBJ, and they're a big international firm. And I loved the vibe of their studio space. It was a lot more creative and artistic and thoughtful, I guess, than like an engineering firm seemed to me, because that would be a lot more science and math based and more logical. And I'm a very logical person. I'm not crazy emotional or anything. But I do have a very creative side. So that's what really drew me to architecture. I knew what's funny, I tell people, I was trying to decide between architecture and engineering, and I knew engineering could make me more money more easily.
Yeah.
But Tyler, the Creator, had an all caps tweet, as always. I said, do whatever the F it is you want to do.
That was the inspiring.
Yep.
Yeah. Profound, Tyler. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Changing lives.
I remember when I was still in architecture, I was talking to a guy who was in civil engineering at Memphis, and the quote that stood out to me was, he said, an architect's dream is an engineer's nightmare.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, dude, that is awesome. That makes me feel like at the time, pick the right field. Because, I mean, it's cool to be creative.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, at least when I was in, I can't speak for the whole program, architecture was way more artistic than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I recall still, I thought it would be more engineering style. Like, I remember I toured the department, I saw it, but I thought architecture, because I already knew what I was picturing. I was drawing on my paper in school. I wasn't paying attention in class ever.
Mm-hmm.
I was drawing stuff. I was drawing skylines, and I was designing stadiums, and I was designing like my future house when I was a rapper, whatever it was going to be.
White delight.
White delight, baby. But I knew, like, okay, here's what I thought architecture was. And then we get into the department, and you're starting to do stuff, and there was whatever project we're on. We're like, all right, everyone take your socks and shoes off, and let's go walk around this paper and charcoal. And I'm like, what is this cult? This is, what is this? Anyway, this one thing where one of the projects, how all-encompassing it was you think, okay, I'm going to be designing a structure.
Yeah.
And it's got to stand up, but it's got to look pretty. Because if it's not going to look pretty, then a builder could have done it,
What project?
I'm just like in general.
Okay.
Just in general, just to make it look pretty. And then whatever project it was, probably freshman year, where we had to do a video and how to do a story and how to do all the model, and you had to do all the renderings. And I was like, dude, this isn't just architecture. They had us studying like different directors and different styles of film.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that one shot of the plastic bag being blown into the tree and like stuck in the tree from one of these movies. And the whole quote was, there's something beautiful about that.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going, is this architecture? Like, why are we studying film? Which, I mean, I kind of get it now. You want to look at all the different sides of art and everything and develop your creative process. But at the same time, like, there's something beautiful about that, about a grocery sack getting stuck in a tree. Dude, reach up there and pull it out. I don't know. It was just so artsy. But, yeah. Good time.
That topic is one of the things I actually grew to appreciate, I think, with our program.
Yeah.
One thing I've kind of discovered just from hearing from kids and internships from different schools, it seems like Memphis teaches a lot more about the theory and ideas of architecture. And other schools really tend to focus on like the programs involved with architecture. So like other students might be learning a lot more about 3D software and rendering and doing videos and making things look cool and like following design code and stuff. But we're learning a lot more, I feel like, about how spaces feel and how shapes make people feel, or how the size of a space makes somebody feel walking into it, or colors even, and then different design styles. We learn about like the history and everything behind architecture. Like there were 4 different classes I took that involved like architecture history.
Yeah. Those were cool. Those were cool classes. Yeah, that was a whole different style. That was the only one you could actually have right and wrong answers. Yeah. I remember that was the only class you could take where it was like either it was during this time period or
you never took structures though.
No, that was right. That was right before I got out because I took physics. Yeah. Because I was having to take that as a prereq, and after that's when I switched to journalism. After I did physics and calculus and all the hard stuff, is when we were onto the and journalism too. It was weird because it was also creative, of course, but it was like the whole other side of the creative spectrum from architecture, where it was like
the other side of the brain.
Yeah, it was like you don't do pictures here; you do strictly words. So you're around a bunch of people that love to write, but then like they can't draw, they can't do Photoshop, they can't they can't make a model, they can't do anything with their hands, but they can write, and they love the English language. Yeah. But like the whole other side of creativity, like they don't like at all. They don't touch it. So it was like, it was still this creative process, but it was, how do you use words as your medium now?
That's definitely something I struggled with in school. Like, especially with my thesis, with how wordy it had to be. Like, that's what I dreaded doing, and that's what I struggled with a lot.
Yeah, I remember we had to write manifestos. And first time they said that, I was like, that doesn't have a good ring to it. Because usually it's like a communist statement. Or it's like a manifesto. It's like what the Unabomber writes before he goes out and kills people. Yeah. So like, what do you mean writing a manifesto? And it was like, what's your statement for the project? Like, what is it like you're setting out to do that you're going to accomplish? Like, oh, why don't you just say like mission statement? But anyway, but then I remember even being in there, everyone's like, we haven't had to write in years. Like we've been in architecture for years. We don't remember how to write? We don't have to write. We draw. But what is your end goal for architecture? What do you think? What do you want to do?
Right now I want to practice other forms of architecture. I feel like in school we did a lot of small commercial projects. Yeah. And I'd like to do a lot more residential. The project I did right before my thesis was a residential project of some sort. And I did that because I was really wanting to go more into that space. And I did really enjoy that project. And I ended up being really happy with it. I feel like I'm able to identify more as like the client, like with the needs of a client in a residential project compared to a commercial one. I'm able to get more into the details and think about like if I was in this house or in this bedroom. I have experience in bedrooms and in houses opposed to like in a ballet studio or something that I might be designing. So I'm able to, I want to explore more residential projects as an intern and then professionally. But also, I'm also interested in like skyscrapers or something like something huge would be an exciting challenge, I feel like. But I also know this projects can take like 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And as an intern, I'd be designing the bathrooms of the building.
Yeah, all the ADA. So, is it ADA compliant? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. with my interior design degree and my architecture degree and my classes I've taken in sustainable design, I could definitely build up the credentials of a pretty educated architect, but I don't know that that's my goal because I haven't really been what would the word be? Like, I haven't had those like desires placed on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do really enjoy architecture. So,
is it something you want to do, you think, forever, or just in the immediate future?
in the immediate future more right now, I think.
You don't see yourself doing it 20, 30 years from now?
Like, till I'm 65, no, probably not.
Really?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it could also be something where, like, I get into it for 5 years and then I find, like, online business and then I move away. But I could also see myself, once I get, like, 20 or 30 years into it, I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing this till I'm 65.
Yeah, right.
So,
Man, so what other stuff are you interested in?
there's not much else professionally. I'm interested in online business, and I have some like mostly just research done into that, not really experience. But I mean, I have plenty of small hobbies.
Yeah. Don't you have, is it natural music?
Yeah, that's
Natural
true.
music creative, what's it called?
That's the Instagram.
That's
Natural
Instagram.
music. So that's something online businessy. Basically that reminds me of, I basically was sleeping in architecture, like not getting much sleep,
Yeah.
but I needed to get like
lack thereof.
2 hours of good sleep or something. And I needed to wake up at like 3 a.m. But I wanted to make sure I would sleep good or something. So I would sleep to white noise. And then I started sleeping to white noise every night because it just always helped me sleep better. And then I realized I was playing this guy's song on loop on iTunes like 100 or 200 times a night, wondering how much money I'm making this dude doing that. And then I did a bunch of research, found out like how much it costs to put music up and how much people make per stream, and if people doing white noise make the same amount as like Kanye West like per stream. And I found out that I mean, if I really push it, I could make some good, not good, but like there's potential to make a ton of money. But I started recording white noise tracks. I bought a microphone and everything and put them up, and right now I'm making a little over $100 a month on it.
Just off a white noise.
Yeah.
And how do people
Rain.
find that?
I have an Instagram account for it, Natural Music Creative, and there's a bunch of like nature related posts I've made on there. But on iTunes or Spotify, Tidal, the artist name is Natural Music.
Natural music. Very easy. Natural music. And it's all white noise.
Yeah.
Man, there you go. That's kind of nice because I've gotten, quote, compliments from people that say they fall asleep listening to my podcast.
There you go.
But yeah, I was, taking a nap, or I fell asleep to
Same.
the sound of your podcast the other day. You're like, oh, that's exactly what it was designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad someone else is out there competing against that finally.
Yeah.
So people can start listening to this nonsense. So Dakota, what else do you do? What other interests do you have?
Man, I've played guitar forever.
Because you're in a music family, kind of, right?
Yeah, I'd love to have my dad on for you.
Dude, come on, David.
Yeah, my dad's a musician, and I grew up playing drums and learned some piano, and then I've played guitar for a long time. I'm into computers and games. Did some sports growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into a lot of things. Fishing. Recently, shooting.
There we go. Fishing and shooting.
Yeah.
Right on. And what other topics or stuff have you been pursuing recently? Now that you're out of school and you have a little bit more time, how do you kind of spend your time now besides work?
Well, at work, I listen to a lot of podcasts now because I'm doing a lot of hands-on work. It's not so much stuff I need to be putting my whole brain to like I would be with architecture, but Joe Rogan podcast is something I've been really enjoying,
Uh-huh.
and I appreciate Joe Rogan a lot for his like level-headedness and like fairness. And past couple years, I've gotten into like lots of political stuff, interest, I guess, which I never thought I would get interested in.
Yeah.
It was the last thing I ever thought I'd be interested in. For sure.
Yeah, I remember, at least again back in architecture, there was stuff going on. It was right before the 2016 election, but like I don't think you were political at all, because like we talked a little bit, but you weren't really into politics back then.
Not at all.
And I remember, because we talked about growing up, stuff in the past. You might have been one of the only people. There's one other person from my high school that came to Memphis, but I never really saw them.
Maya Widget?
What's that?
Was it Maya Widget?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, okay.
It was a guy named Landon, which I only saw him a couple times. But he came to Memphis, but no one else came. So, of course, I had this common ground, because everyone else from Memphis, University of Memphis, I would probably go out on a limb and say 85% of them are from Memphis.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't really have anybody from home. So, of course, you're meeting all these new people, which is great. But it's kind of nice to have someone who's like, oh, okay, we know the same area. We go back to the same area. I remember I'd see you when we'd be back in Spring Hill. It was kind of like, oh, we have our Memphis ties, we have our Spring Hill ties. But I don't even know how I got on that. But yet you were never really like political. So when we started talking recently, and I found out you were also woke.
I wouldn't say woke with a Q, but
No. Oh, we love woke. I should have worn my woke shirt, but it's flannel time. So why did you get into politics? Is it important to be involved in politics?
Well, I don't think it's super important, no. But I don't know. I guess so 2 years ago, I would say, is when I got into it. And 2 years ago, I was in architecture school. It was probably stuff I was just like listening to or watching like in studio, probably to avoid doing schoolwork.
Sure.
Like, to procrastinate. But I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I don't know like where it all started, but oh, you know what it was? It was those change my mind memes. That's how I got into it.
Okay.
So I discovered where all the change my mind stuff came from. It came from Steven Crowder, and I watched like a lot of his change my mind episodes like in a row, like 4 hours straight or something.
Oh my gosh.
And he was bringing up lots of good points to these people, and he wasn't like rude about it, but so it wasn't like arguing. It was like a Socratic method of discussion or whatever, which I thought was cool. And I grew up, I guess, Republican, but like didn't really identify with politics. But like I've always been pro-life, and that's probably like the biggest issue for me as far as politics goes, just being pro-life. So identifying with that identifies me with Republican conservative views. And then every time I do more research into different topics or issues going on, I always tend to find myself on the side that is conservative or Republican or pro self-defense or pro-life or pro capitalism or pro-America, really.
Pro-America. Yeah, and you got really big into self-defense here recently. I mean, I know you've always had an interest in guns. I think most guys do. But you're really into self-defense now. Why?
I've always loved the sport of shooting. Didn't grow up with guns at all. My mom was very anti-guns. The closest thing to was a BB gun I had to shoot cans in the backyard.
Yeah.
And it took this crazy young, I can probably fairly say white supremacist dude.
Yeah, but an actual white supremacist.
An actual white supremacist.
Because disclaimer, we hear that all the time.
Yeah, an actual.
But you can't really define it if everything's white. Okay, so this is an actual white supremacist.
An actual white supremacist that attacked my brother randomly, for reasons unknown.
In public, right?
In public, punched my brother where he works at Cracker Barrel in the face. Like, just walked up to him, claimed to be his friend, to see him, and then upon finding his Facebook page and stuff, we got scared, I guess.
Yeah.
And parents bought a handgun. And I was already wanting a shotgun because I really loved skeet shooting with people. It's the most fun form of shooting I've ever done. I love target shooting. I've done that a lot before, but whenever I graduated, I got a 17 caliber rifle, which is really tiny caliber, but really fast projectile, so really fun for target practice. And then most recently, my dad invited me to go to a concealed carry permit class with him where he works at Keller Williams now. And I went, and I also got myself a handgun, and I have my concealed carry permit in the mail now. So,
man. And what is the importance? Because nowadays, there's a lot of different discussions on guns and gun control. So why is, I don't know, self-defense? I can't say why self-defense is important. We all know that. But why is like a gun-oriented self-defense important? Why do you believe in it?
Well, because the criminals have guns.
Even the playing field?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
they do have guns.
Well, yeah, whether you make it illegal or not. So.
But do you think if we got rid of all guns completely, that over time we could phase out guns out of America where criminals wouldn't have access to guns?
I don't think so. Nobody would let that happen. Even if we were on the side of letting that happen, it wouldn't happen.
So you think criminals would break the law?
Definitely.
Huh.
Criminals, by definition, break the law.
That is true. That's very true. I can't say I disagree with that. Do you think gun control at all should be enforced, like in any form, in any capacity?
Okay, so one thing that scared me recently was going on Biden's campaign website where he was listing out all of his...
Which, by the way, we're still in the middle of them counting votes. So we don't know who... We could be listening down the road and be like, oh, so-and-so is now president. Mm-hmm. We don't know right now when we're recording this. So this is right during the campaign time. You look at Biden's website. Mm-hmm.
Something prompted me to look at his gun control laws list, and there was a list of, like, you had to scroll on a phone like multiple times to get to the bottom of the list of things he wants to enact. There's
all for gun control or just different policies?
All for gun control only.
Okay.
On Biden's campaign website, and there's only one on there that I can agree with, and it's called the red flag law, from what I understand. And the only reason I really agree with it is because in my eyes I see it less as a gun control law and more as a mental health law, because I think our gun control issue isn't really a gun issue, it's a mental health issue. These people that are doing these mass murders are people who are on like drugs for mental health. They're on the what are they called, like the psycho something.
I don't know.
I forget the term for it, but the type of drugs that like help people with and like antidepressants and stuff.
Yeah.
They basically make people not care about anything. So whenever you have somebody who has mental health issues on this medicine that makes them not care, who's also somebody who has like weird views of the world.
Yeah.
That's how you get these mass murderers. It's not just by giving a random person a gun you get a mass murderer.
Yeah.
But so this red flag law allows direct family members or people in police forces of some kind temporarily take away the guns from somebody who's at risk like that. So in this case, it could have stopped the Parkland shooting, who's a kid who was stopped or investigated by the FBI a couple times and whose family knew was kind of at risk, and that could have stopped that mass murder because that's a mentally ill person who caused a mass murder.
Right. Yeah, that was the...
Because that law doesn't threaten law-abiding citizens, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't looked in Biden's gun control policy, so I don't know how well that would be enforced anyway. This is a crazy little stat. Is gun owners in America make up a total larger than the largest 8 militaries in the world combined. Just gun owners in America. And then people who bought hunting licenses in 2019, that's a number larger than the 4 largest militaries combined. So
Is it 300 million guns in the U.S.?
I think it's more. I think it's over 400 million because I know it's
Wow.
more than how, because there's like 300. They can't get a number right. Of course, we'll have the 2020 census coming out, but there's between like 330 and 350 million Americans. So there are more guns than there are Americans by like maybe 100 million. I need to look it up, but I know it's over 400 million. At least the
Wow.
number I heard within the last couple of days. So
Yeah.
and that's where you got to think people own multiple guns. So there are a lot
Yeah, I
of guns
do.
out there. So if any
You do.
politician came to power with a gun confiscation or gun buyback program or however you want to word it, because there's a lot of different gun control like plans.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of guns to come after.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about earlier, too bad I'm sure I'm gonna end up in some kind of boating accident between now and
Yeah.
then, losing all my
Yeah.
guns.
I always loved the meme because Beto O'Rourke,
Yeah.
when he was running the Democratic primary, he had his whole thing where he was like, heck yeah, we're going to get your AR-15. Heck yeah, we're going to take your AK-47.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody made a meme, and this is for all my friends out there on both sides of the aisle because it's funny. And I said, hey, Beto, you know why you're not going to take my AR-15? Because I have an
my
AR-15.
AR-15, yeah.
That's why you're not going to take it. And
Yeah, I
that
saw that
is
one coming.
hilarious because comedy is all we have left nowadays, guys. This is it. We're in the middle of, we don't know who's going to be president,
But only from comics who aren't scared of all the censorship.
who aren't scared of censorship. I'm gonna throw this out there. If you ever want to come on the podcast and say whatever you want uncensored, with the exception of profanity, come on. You're not going to get censored. You can talk about whatever. You can talk about why Beto should or should not take your AR-15. I don't care. Come on and talk about it.
I would love a good argument for why he should.
Why you should take your AR-15?
Yeah.
Because an AR-15 odds are will have 30 rounds. So that is a gun with a lot of rounds. So it can kill a lot of people in a small compact area.
But handguns cause the most amount of homicides in the U.S.
Yeah, but AR-15s they're assault style.
But they're fully semi-automatic.
But they're fully semi-automatic. I love gun talk. Do you know fully semi-automatic don't exist? Man,
Look it up.
this is what happens when we smoke and drink and
Yeah.
record a podcast out by the fire at 12:15 in the morning. But
On a Friday.
yeah, what other topics or issues are hot on your mind right now that you want to talk about?
Mere Christianity.
Okay, let's hear it.
So a while back, Isaac gave me Mere Christianity to read, and I tried.
Oh, I gave you the book?
Yeah, you gave it
Oh,
to
I
me.
didn't realize that. Cool.
You don't remember?
Nope.
I I think it's in 3 parts. The book that you gave me was in 3 parts, I believe. And I got through the first third of it. It was a really tough read, like to comprehend along the way. I'm
Right.
part dyslexic, but
Are you really?
yeah. But I was like rereading sentences and paragraphs, dissecting each sentence, trying to get it along the way. But C.S. Lewis writes it in, like, you need to understand, like, everything that's going on the whole page instead of just a sentence at a time.
Yeah.
So anyways, at work, I bought the audiobook to listen to, and I've gone through it, like, almost twice all the way through now. And man, it's a great, powerful, kind of convicting book on Christianity from the point of view of somebody who tried to prove Christianity wrong
Right.
and then came to Christ. So
Yeah. So if anyone hasn't read it, it was C.S. Lewis, his journey of finding God, because he was a very, very smart atheist, set out trying to disprove the existence of God, and then pretty much how he came to the conclusion that there is a God in all of his arguments along the way. And also the story, because like the first half of the book, it doesn't even talk, we don't even get into like the God of the Bible, because it's mere Christianity. So you think, oh, it's a Christian book. He doesn't talk about the God of the Bible.
yeah.
First half.
Yeah, the first half is more about the ideas of, like, if there is a God, would it be like a duality, or would it like good
Right.
versus bad, or would it be what is it, pantheology,
Yeah.
like multiple gods? And like
Yeah.
he uses
Pantheistic, yeah.
logic to kind of prove like with dualism, for example, like to have a good and a bad, you need something to determine that they're good or bad. And so that'd be something above the two of them. And anyways, if you're a logical person and you haven't read it, and if you're Christian or not, it's a super good read or super good listen. I would recommend more, actually.
As an audiobook?
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a lot of great arguments. There's an A.W. Tozier quote. He's another theologian, and he talked about something along the lines of, you only know a crooked stick if you lay it by a straight one.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of, you only know evil because we know good. We have to have that standard of good. Therefore, we can find this perversion of good that is now evil. And that's the only way we know it's a perversion, because it has to originate from there. Yeah. Which is wild. They're all so wise.
And the book is filled with metaphors like that, or similes, really. Uh-huh. The whole time.
What's another one that stands out to you?
When he does start to talk about how Christians act or believe, one question was brought up, like, what's more important, faith in God or obedience to God? And he talks about it being kind of like trying to decide which blade of a pair of scissors is more important than the other.
Right.
And they just go hand in hand. So, like, as a Christian, you need to believe that God and Christ exist, and that God sent Jesus to die on the cross for your sins. Uh-huh. But then you also need to repent and follow Christ.
Yeah. So have you always been a Christian?
I've always been a Christian, but not always been a Christian who has experienced God.
Okay. Were you raised in church, or?
Yeah. And it took my first serious relationship to experience God. And it was an interesting ending to that relationship that made me experience God. Essentially, I knew we weren't supposed to stay together, but I kept fighting God, trying to stay in the relationship for almost a year before we ended the relationship. And it was a situation where I was scared of what would happen for my girlfriend if we broke up. Yeah. And I needed to let that go. And I was only 18 or 19 at the time too, but whenever I finally gave up my fears and gave up that relationship to God, and we ended that relationship, I was leaving our driveway and my radio was on, and it was the Lady Antebellum, not that band, but the singer singing her song, Thy Will Be Done. And the first words I hear is her singing, Thy will be done. And immediately what I hear is God telling me, like, no matter what happens, and whether you listen to me the first time or 9 months down the road, my will be done, and it'll be for your greater good and your purpose and what my will is for you. And in that moment, 2 houses down the road, I broke down crying and was relieved of all my fears, and knew it was the right thing that was supposed to happen, because that's what I was praying for. And then I called you and we hung out for a little bit, if you remember. So
yeah, was it that night?
Yeah,
we hung out. Remember? Yeah, you came over. Was it when I just got back from Orlando?
I think so.
Was that it? Okay. Yeah.
Came to your house and everybody else was already asleep or something.
Yeah, man. Nice late night breakup, man.
Yeah.
Nothing better.
Hey, we'll experience God, so.
Yeah, and then how's it been since then?
It's been pretty good. It's all been a lot more real, because, like, I always felt like there was a voice there whenever I was praying and stuff before, but now that experience happened when I really, like, kind of heard his voice. Now it's way more real, way more undeniable, and since then, like, I've prayed several times that everybody gets to experience something like that. Like,
yeah.
It's awesome for anybody who does get to experience something like that.
Yeah. Man, especially with the shape of the world. Of course, I feel like I talk about it every episode because I pretty much started this thing in the middle of a pandemic. So there's always something going on, something monumental going on. But I couldn't imagine, with everything going on politically in our country, everything going on just socially, and politically and spiritually in the world, I, by the grace of God, can say I cannot honestly imagine having to navigate any of this without being a Christian. I can't even picture what I would do, what I'd be saying, what I'd be thinking, how I'd be feeling. Because I already know what it's like now. It's tough now, but at least you know, as a Christian, I have hope. As a Christian, I know how the story ends.
Yeah.
And, we're on the winning team. And one thing I've been thinking about, too, and you'll probably agree with this, I don't think that is true because I believe it, but, I believe it because I think it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think with a lot of the stuff going on, it's like, my way's right, your way's wrong. And it's like, I don't believe this, and be like, okay, I believe it, therefore it's true, and then it's my belief versus yours. Like, the only reason I do believe it is because I think it's true.
Yeah.
So that way, it's like, I'm not taking some self-righteous stance of all the stuff I believe is true, and you guys are all ignorant idiots. Wake up, you sheep. Like, it's not that. It's like, I've seen what this is. This has to be true, and because of that, I'm going to align my life with that, whatever that looks like, whether you're a Christian or not. Whatever the truth is, yeah. Truth is very important right now.
Dude, I hope all the truth comes out in this election.
Oh, man. Oh, dude. Ooh, man, how much time do we have? Yeah.
Probably not much more. Huh?
Yeah. How long do you think we're at right now?
Probably like 45.
56.
56.
56. Yeah, truth is very, very important. So, where would you like to see yourself in 10 years? Knowing everything you know now, what you've accomplished, what you believe, how the Lord has worked in your life, all the hard work you've done in the studio and architecture.
Yep, architecture.
Where do you see yourself?
I have written my goals. 10 years from now, I hope to be licensed as an architect, a registered interior designer, a LEED certified designer, which is like sustainable design stuff, as well as still pursuing natural music, white noise, as well as like product sales on my own online store, which I'm starting up again soon, and then married.
Oh,
for sure.
There we go.
It's definitely something I long for in life.
Yeah. So, ladies, if you've made it this far,
how you doing?
Hey, man, Dakota. Anything you're dying to talk about before we log off here? Anything you want to talk about before we end on a powerful quote?
I'd say, no matter your stance on stuff in this world, in the U.S. and everything going on, don't lose your friends over it.
Oh, why do you say that?
Man, I got people from architecture school like going off on me for just reposting something on my story or something. And y'all can follow me. I am not ashamed of anything I'm posting. I'm not even posting anything crazy. It's like
it's also not stuff you come up with. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like a something from like Prager University
oh, gosh.
Talking about how what is it? Like voting fraud could happen and all the opportunities for it in our system now, and someone's going off on me or something, and I'm like, all right, dude, like, you're gonna go off on me, and we were like really cool in our DMs like a month ago.
Dude, politics is deadly. It's especially now with identity politics. You may have known someone well for 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And the person that you've come to know and love, that just gets thrown out.
Yeah.
Because of like maybe one stance you took. You're like, that's it. Forget everything I thought I knew about you. You're a whatever.
You think different about this one thing, therefore like you are the problem with everything, and they just name call you and disrespect you and cancel that friendship.
Yeah. Dude. So you're saying
when we could have been talking about like Star Wars or cars or something.
Yeah. And now you don't even want to talk at all. So don't lose your friends over it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Huh.
I feel like that's a decent
Yeah. Is there any practical
point?
way we have these conversations and don't lose friendships?
Yeah, I mean, I've had plenty. I think when you just respect each other and don't like lose your cool, don't take everything personally. Like, realize people on either side aren't actually like bad people to be bad or anything. Like, or nobody. Everyone believes that what they believe is true. So like, try and understand why they believe that, and then you might learn something from anybody.
Right.
So.
Very true. That's good. Any good quotes? Any good maybe book recommendations or documentary recommendations? Anything to leave viewers with?
Mere Christianity is a good book recommendation. Let's see if my story post is still up. I had a quote from C.S. Lewis. Let me find it real quick.
Also, while you're looking for it, where can people follow you, keep up with you?
DDub Wyatt on Instagram. DDUBB Wyatt, WYATT.
And then also Natural Music Creative.
Yeah, you can find that in my DDub Wyatt bio.
Gotcha.
And then you can find where to listen in the Natural Music Creative bio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You ready for this quote?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. It's from C.S. Lewis. We all want progress. But if you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the man who turns back soonest is the most progressive.
Man.
How's that?
That's killer. Yeah, Lewis is the man. That's a killer quote. And killer time.
It stood out to me, man.
A killer time to share that quote.
Yeah.
Man, Dakota.
Thanks for having me on.
Dude, thanks for letting me come over.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for the Old Hickory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Old Hickory whiskey.
Yep.
Old Hickory. Yeah, it's very good. Very good. Had a good cigar before this. Had some good Burger King. Yeah.
And McDonald's before that.
You had McDonald's. You had McDonald's and Burger King tonight.
Yeah.
You're being productive,
It was a long night.
Yeah, it was. It is 12:40. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for listening so far.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
All right, Dakota, come back anytime. Best of luck with architecture.
Hopefully I can get my dad and Joy Vila on.
Oh, dude.
No promises, though.
Dude, on either?
No promises yet, no.
Oh, man. Okay.
I'm trying.
That's all right. That's all right. Maybe David Wyatt and Joy Vila?
Yeah.
Vila,
I think.
Vila. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully we get to have her on. Anyway, that was Dakota Wyatt, and we will see you on the other side.